In the last video we discussed what the questions are in IELTS Task 2 writing. We talked about the structure as well. Now we're going to focus now on the introduction, and then the next videos will be about the body. But this will be the first video about the introduction, and then we will have another one that looks at argument essays to follow. So first of all, today we're going to be looking at an analysis of the cause, effect, cause, solution, effect, solution introductions, and how you can write them effectively in Task 2. So let's think about this question. What is in a good introduction? Very important question. Do you know? 1. You should have an outline of the topic. Some people call this a background statement. Then you should have a direct response to the question and describe what's coming in the body. Now this is often called a thesis statement. So those two things are the key parts. Now that usually is 2 sentences, but it might be 3 or 4, but it should be no more ever than 4 sentences in an introduction. 2 is usually fine. The samples you're seeing today will all be 2. So remember to always do the pre-writing. This will help you write a good introduction, especially that step 1 there when we're thinking about the question, we're simplifying the question. That certainly will help. But step 2 and step 3 is important too, because when you know what's in the body, then that's easier for the thesis statement to describe the thesis statement, and you can get a nice flow through your essay, which will help with coherence and cohesion. So let's have a look at that and think about the pre-writing that might come with this question. First of all, we'll show you, and then in the subsequent ones that we look at, cause and solution and effect and solution, will get you to think about it. But right now, we see that here was the question. The percentage of overweight children in many societies has increased recently. Why is this happening, and how is it affecting their children? So this is a cause and effect essay. What the person's doing over there to the side is thinking in the blue, is considering synonyms for those underlined words and the key words in the question. So there's lots of synonyms they're thinking about. They're also considering different word form, lexical chunks like increased considerably. Over the last decade, they said recently, so maybe we can give an exact time phrase. Now they've asked the question why, so the person's immediately thinking of cause language, caused by and as a result, and the same thing with consequences and resulted in. That's thinking about effect language, which is the second part of the question. Also considering grammar, so we want to think about the tense. We could be using any of the present tenses, present, present perfect, present continuous, present perfect continuous. We could use the passive voice sometimes as well. Always remember to simplify the question, so they've written it here. Basically, it's the cause and effect of overweight children. So then step 3 is taking your notes. So we'll just have a quick look at what they're doing. First of all, you're going to split the page. There's 2 parts to this question. We want to think about the 2 parts. So they've got 2 nice columns there, causes. They've got diet, fast food, KFC, diet at home, maybe it's quick food or not enough home cooking. So there are some good examples and explanation there. On the other side, the effects of being overweight, maybe bullying at school, so mental problems there, and more seriously, physical problems like diseases like diabetes or other physical problems. So once we've done that, that's our pre-writing. We know that we've got 2 body paragraphs there. We know how we're going to write it. We know the topic. We know the synonyms. We know the tense we should be using. So now it becomes easier to think about the introduction. So that's the same question you've just looked at. And now let's look at how they are writing the introduction. So basically what they're doing is paraphrasing. So the first sentence, you notice, is basically exactly the same as the first sentence there. And the second sentence is the questions, a response to the questions. And also discussing what's coming in the essay, of course. So there's some good language they've used there. We can see that this language has come from the synonyms and the notes they had on the previous page. So the pre-writing is helping them write this well. They've used, if we look at the grammar, the children who are overweight is a good example of a relative clause. So showing off a bit of grammar there immediately in the essay. They're using the present perfect there, and also the present perfect in the next essay has occurred. And then they switch to this is a good complex sentence, the second one, because then they switch to, if you notice, a complex sentence with the and they're switching tenses from present perfect to present simple. Now, let's look at another essay, pre-writing cause and solution now. So have a look at that question. We've underlined the key words for you. Remember, that's something you should be doing. What are the key words? When you underline them, it helps you understand. So here are some synonyms again. So we have a lot of synonyms this time. You don't have to write this many. You don't have to write words like referencing and substitution. You just think of those words. You write down the they or these young people. Don't forget referencing and substitution. Remember, it will help you with your coherence and cohesion. So they've got lots of words there. We're not going to go through them all right now. And they're focusing on the tense again. It's similar to before, present and present perfect again. But the second part we notice is solutions. So for the second part, we're going to use some future language. We're going to use modals and maybe future passive. So it's very good to think about this before you start writing. It helps you greatly in the test. Then again, we're going to take some notes. So we see the ideas coming up. Remember, we need to think of examples. So they've got two causes and then two solutions. So this looks like a simple 4-paragraph essay from the ideas they have. So now this time I'd like you to think about it. You can talk about it with your partner. If you want to, one person could write the first sentence and the second person could write the second sentence. Feel free to go back to the previous slide and look at the synonyms they used. Your job is, remember, to paraphrase the first sentence and to explain your ideas and what's going to come in the body paragraphs in the second sentence in the thesis statement. And here it is. So let's analyze this and let's think about the language they have used. So most cities in the question has become many cities in different parts of the world. They've switched around the alarming increases, so they're changing the word form from the question, and they've kept the levels of youth crime the same. That's okay. 2 or 3 words is fine. Don't copy the whole phrase, though. In the thesis statement, the second sentence, notice that we've got, again, the using referencing. This serious problem may happen. That's a good modal verb there, may happen. So that's a future modal structure there, and provide some possible solutions. That's a good solution, cause-solution thesis statement. Now let's think about effects and solutions. So really this is just a combination of the two things we've talked about already. So this time I'd like you to think about it. You underline what the key words might be in that question and start thinking about synonyms, think about referencing, think about grammar. So here we go. Here's the synonyms up the top there. Notice when it's mentioning governments, that they've got the authorities and city planners. They've got some nice verbs there for solve. Tackle, combat, solve, consider. They are good words to use there. We'll discuss some language related to solution essays in subsequent videos. So the tense, again, as we've mentioned before, they've written that down. This time it's solutions again. So present for the effects, and then future and modals for the second part of the question. Notice this simplified question coming down there as well. So the ideas, here come their ideas. So we've got effects with the housing problems, poverty, crime, and solutions. If we look at that individual one, that doesn't seem like a very good example. But anyway, that's some examples of notes there as well. So now as we consider the introduction, so now overpopulation of urban areas has led to numerous problems, as we've just seen. How would you write that? Have a go yourself writing it now. This time try and write the full introduction. And then on the other side we see a good example of the use of synonyms. again, once more, and the language that we've already discussed. So one final thing to remember is don't separate your sentences like this, where I'm just doing this here so you can see the purpose of the sentences, but in your introduction, those sentences should be together in one paragraph. So that's it for introductions. Next video we will look at the same thing, but this time related to argument essays.